What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Tea with Carley. I'm your host, Carley, aka Teacher Carley, and I'm here with my amazing husband, Davis, because we have an interesting topic for today. So, Davis, why don't you go ahead and say hello before I introduce our topic?
Hello, everyone. This is Davis, Carley's editor.
Okay, he's my husband and he's my editor. We're a team, all right? The FasciNATIve English team, okay? But today's topic is one that one of my friends, but also an ESL learner and a viewer of my YouTube channel wanted to know more on. She wanted to know more about the difference between introverts and extroverts. So I decided, instead of doing like a little YouTube video on it where I just explain the definitions of both words, I wanted to go and give like an actual talk about it. So that's what we are doing here on the podcast today. But before we get started, the nitty gritty of today, I wanted to give the definitions of an introvert and an extrovert. So I guess I'll read the definition for introvert, and then Davis, you can read the definition for extrovert. So an introvert is just a person who gains energy from spending time alone or with a small group of close friends. They may feel drained after like prolonged social interaction. Even if it was fun, even if they had a good time, they might feel super drained, and they just prefer the quiet, solitary activities like reading, writing, or reflecting. Basically, if you don't like to leave your house and you like to stay home, you are an introvert. But if you are an extrovert, Davis?
An extrovert is a person who gains energy from being around people. They enjoy social gatherings and may feel restless or bored when alone for too long. They are often outgoing, talkative, and assertive. And what's funny is I think we should have swapped definitions.
I did this on purpose. There's a method behind my madness because I am definitely an extrovert, and we'll get into why I believe I'm an extrovert. And Davis is definitely an introvert, which is why I know Davis has been on the podcast a couple of times. I'm not going to lie to you guys. He is very easy to get on my podcast. He's literally my husband. So I'm like, hey, I need you. Come here. But also, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for him to be on because we are two totally different people. He's an introvert. I'm an extrovert. And I really think that you guys are going to be able to see the differences between the two in today's podcast. First, Davis, I have like a few questions prepared, and I want to ask you a question about just the differences between introverts and extroverts and their social tendencies. So how do you think, in your opinion, introverts and extroverts recharge outside of social situations? So what do they do when they are not in a social generation to kind of recharge their battery? If they have an activity that like drains them, like how do they recharge? Okay. Or maybe just give how you as an introvert recharge.
I think I can speak for the introvert community. For me, I recently went on a trip to Ohio. It was like 3 days, maybe?
No, it was like 5 days.
5 days? Okay, 5 days. And let me tell you, I think my social battery drained within the first day. How I recharge my batteries, I feel like I need to step away from people. I need to go into my little hideout in a back room, back corner, somewhere away from other people, and just be alone, have my own thoughts to myself, and just kind of just be myself in my own little corner. That's how I recharge my battery. Then before I go meet people, I have to mentally prepare myself, okay, let's get out there, let's do this, we got it, let's go. So I think I am, I don't know, would you say I'm leaning ambivert? I think I can be social when I have to be, but when I don't have to be, I'm definitely introvert. I don't like to.
Yeah, I think you might be ambivert, which we weren't even prepared to talk about today. An ambivert basically is someone who's a little bit of a mix of both an extrovert and an introvert. But most ambiverts, in my opinion, they definitely lean towards being an introvert. I feel like you cannot really consider yourself an extrovert unless you are fully extroverted. So for me, looking at this question, how do I, as an extrovert, self-proclaimed extrovert, recharge outside of social situations? So typically, I I like to recharge by playing on my phone, which isn't really disconnecting myself from anything socially because I am still texting to people. I'm still on Instagram. I'm still looking up stuff for my YouTube channel, ideas, talking to students, doom scrolling. Like I'm still very much connected to the outside world. But that's how I quote unquote recharge. Or I just take a bath. I love relaxing in a bath. Skincare routines is kind of like how I recharge. But honestly, I feel like extroverts don't really need the type of recharge that introverts need. And I feel like because at a moment's notice, I can pretty much be ready to like talk to anyone at any time. I will say when it comes to talking to people on the phone, I'm not a huge fan. I don't
talking on the phone is weird.
It's weird, but I think that's not really an introvert extrovert thing. I think it's like a millennial thing.
Yeah, millennial.
I think like because just of our age, we grew up in a time where it was like some people liked texting, some people liked calling, and we know how to do both, but we prefer texting. So, yeah, I think for me, I don't think I get drained a lot from being around people. I get drained from being around my kids all day outside, like if we take them to an amusement park or something, but I think that's just called being a parent. I think a lot of people have this idea that extroverts are all party people who like to go out and like they can just party all day, all night, and have a lot of fun. I feel like that might be true to some extent, but also we are just people. Like we just like to be around people.
Yeah.
Even in our alone time. So even when I'm quote unquote recharging, I am definitely still very much connected to the outside world via my cell phone or something online or watching a movie. Like I'm still like, I'm not truly alone, something along those lines. Next question though, because that was very good. I liked your little story about Ohio because I remember you calling me the first day and being like, oh my gosh, there's so many people.
Too many people. I had to meet, like 10, 15 new faces at one time.
Yeah.
And that was, oh my gosh, my anxiety level was through the roof.
Yeah, I bet. Knowing you, yeah. So, next question. How do introverts and extroverts typically approach communication, both in their personal and professional settings? So, you as an introvert, how do you approach communicating with people in your personal life and then also in your professional life, so at work?
Okay, so personal life. I try to avoid people. Actually, I don't want to have a conversation.
This is true.
I hate small talk. How was your day? How are you doing today? This and that. How was your weekend? I'm introvert. I stay in a lot. I do the same thing every weekend almost. My weekend was the same as last weekend. I don't like small talk. I hate small talk. So I try to avoid people because I know that you have to have the small talk to kind of figure out a person, break that ice barrier. But professional setting, usually at work, they would just come to me with their questions prepared. My answer comes up on the spot. It's pretty easy. Then they try to get to know me on a personal level, and that's when
you freeze up.
I freeze up, and my alarms are going off. Like, what do I say? I don't know. How's your weekend? Good, great. See ya. This is how I am.
Yeah, I definitely feel like when you communicate on a personal level, if you don't know the person really well, like, and I mean, you've been friends since like. Most of your friends you've been friends with since like middle school or before. So they grew up with you and you know them. And then of course you have like two brothers that you're close with and then myself. So if they don't know you like really, really well, then they will never actually get to really know you because you are just that kind of introvert. You're just like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
There's been a few people here and there that were able to like break through that ice, but you definitely are more reserved.
There's some extroverts out there that like really know how to carry a conversation and just kind of guide through it, and that helps me a lot. There's a coworker at work. She just kind of talks for me and I just chime in, and somehow the conversations go really easy. And just like you when we first met, you kind of you spoke for me, you answered my questions for me, and I was like, yeah, that's right, yeah, cool.
I feel like people on this podcast probably think that I still do that because if you go back and listen, I'm like re-answering your questions after you answer them.
Yeah, that's true. So
it's like out of habit.
I can just cut out all my answers.
Oh, stop. I literally, and that's that. I'm glad you said that because that goes into what I have to say about being an extrovert. Like we are almost always ready to communicate. And the way I typically approach in my personal life communicating with people, I will just say something, whether it be funny. I love being funny. I love humor. So I'll say something funny. I don't really like small talk when it comes to like how's like, oh, the weather outside is blah blah blah. But I will say it to be funny. Like if it's an awkward pause or silence in the room and like I'm in a room full of introverts, I'll just say something like, "Oh, crazy weather we've been having lately." Like, and then
You know
everybody
how
just
I would answer? I'd be just like, yeah. And just and hopefully someone picks up.
No, because it's like funny, it like breaks the ice, the awkwardness in the room. So I typically approach communicating with people with humor or from a humorous aspect because I feel like whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, ambivert, we can all relate to humor. We all, like almost all humans can laugh. They're capable of emotion and they love funny things. So that's how I typically, in my professional life as well, I don't know if I should say this, like, it's going to be on the internet forever, but I'm not super professional in the way that I act at work. Like, I can be at times, and I get my work done. I'm professional in that aspect, but I treat my work, like my coworkers, as like my extended family members, which has its pros and cons. Because pro is I'm really close to them. I actually do truly care about people. But con is I'm going to talk to you the same way I talk to like my best friend or my sister or my kids, So I don't really have a difference when it comes to personal professional settings. Like I just love to talk. I love to communicate. I usually use humor and I like to listen too. So sometimes it could be a good thing. Sometimes it could be a bad thing. I'm supposed to be working, but I'm talking for 5 hours of the workday.
Yeah, you're staring at me.
I actually work better remote, like from home, because when I go into office, it's like, I'm just like, my husband will text me like, you've been away from your computer for how long? And I'm like, oh, I'm just talking with all my coworkers.
Oh, yeah.
But at home, it's like, I'm just here. So yeah, it's definitely different. So where do communication misunderstandings usually happen with introverts? So I'll go first. With extroverts, a lot of times if we're communicating with an introvert or with an ambivert, sometimes there can be some misunderstandings because as an extrovert, it's so easy to just say whatever's on our mind and we are very lighthearted about everything and it's easy for us to communicate things. So we're just like, for instance, this is an extreme scenario, but like, let's say Davis had something in his teeth, but he and I we weren't married, we weren't close, we're just like coworkers. Like, I'm going to tell him, like, hey, bro, you got something in your teeth, And as an extrovert, that's just normal for us to say something because we're looking out for someone else, But I've heard from a lot of people, even my own friends, because this happened to me the other day. We were all sitting down at a restaurant. I had chocolate on my lip.
Yeah.
And nobody said anything for like an hour.
I didn't even see it.
Okay, you didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
And then I walked to the bathroom. I was like, guys, you didn't even tell me that I had chocolate on my lip. It was like a little dot. And they were like, oh, well, we didn't want to say anything. So as an introvert.
Oh, okay. So, if you had an eyelash hanging off or lipstick smeared across your face, I'm going to be honest, I probably won't say anything.
Yeah, because you're too introvert to say it,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it feels weird. Like, like how are they going to react? They're going to stop talking to me because I pointed it out, even though my intentions are good. Like, hey, you might need to clean up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but I want you to look your best. But just, I think for me is I am calculating the outcomes. And most of the time it's always a bad outcome that how I think they'll react. And so because of that, I just avoid it completely and I just won't say anything at all to anybody.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference between introverts and extroverts too. Like typically we're not afraid to say anything. We like to speak our mind, which can get us in trouble too. Because I literally had a work meeting earlier today and I was ready for war. Like I wanted to speak my mind so bad, but I knew that there was a lot of the higher ups in our meeting and I was like, just take notes and like collect your thoughts and then come back later. But yeah, with introverts, do you feel like it's hard to like speak your mind sometimes?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I would always try to avoid any kind of
Confrontation.
conversation, anything. If I had a meeting and they tell me some things like that, I would typically just stay quiet until the entire time until a problem occurs, and then I would say something about it because I'm going to need to address it.
Mm.
But in the moment of it feels like I'm standing up in class.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. I'll just pull you aside when I need you.
Yeah. I also think that, speaking on your behalf, you hate confrontation so much. And I'm not super confrontational. I don't like it, but I believe in justice being served sometimes. And I know that we've, even in our own relationship, have had some differences when it comes to little things like restaurants giving you the wrong food and not getting the service that we requested, where I'm like, let's just tell them, and you're like, no. So it's definitely an introvert and extrovert type of thing. So yeah, there's a myth of the shy extrovert and the social introvert. Okay, these terms kind of get thrown around a lot. I want to know if they're valid. How do you explain the difference between someone who appears extroverted but needs significant alone time, so they're called the social introvert, and someone who is outgoing but gains energy from being around others, which is the shy extrovert? All right, so I don't think this really involves us. I think I am definitely just an extrovert and you're definitely just an introvert. Mm-hmm. But I think you walk that line of ambivert sometimes, and I think possibly you could be what they call a shy extrovert at times. Because when you're around those that you are comfortable with, you are extroverted. You are.
Oh, yes.
So I think you might sometimes classify as a shy extrovert. So again, how do you explain the difference between someone who appears extroverted but needs significant alone time, which is the social introvert, and someone who is outgoing but gains energy from being around others?
Social introvert sounds a lot like ambivert, where they have to be social.
Yeah, these terms are new terms that people are throwing around these days, but I also got the vibe where it's just like an ambivert.
Yeah.
A little bit of both.
There are many times where I have to be ambivert because I have played it out in my head. If I stay quiet like I want to be the entire time, they're going to think I'm weird. So let me just try to chime in here and there. It won't look good. My image won't look good. It won't make the person I'm with look good. Why is she hanging out with him? Why are they together? This and that. So, when in a social gathering, if I have Carley there, it makes my stress level reduce by a lot. It's amazing. It helps me out a whole lot. I can't be the introvert I want to be because I have to uphold this title with her that she's not weird. She's not dating anyone weird. I'm social. I can be social. Most of the time, I just chime in when I can. Yeah,
it was really funny. I actually, just a couple nights ago when we were hanging out with our friends, I realized that I talk too much because I was talking for I looked at my clock and then, I don't remember what time it was, but we just started talking about something and you were just sitting there and I talked with them for 45 minutes or more. Yeah. And then I looked over and you're just still sitting there with your little drink in your hand. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I think I should let Davis talk. Yeah. I feel like
this
what we've been talking about.
You just carry the conversation.
I got carried away.
It's you talk to yourself and everyone else listens.
Yeah, so I think I would explain the difference between someone who appears extroverted but needs alone time and someone who's, outgoing but can gain energy from others. I think the main difference would be how they are behind closed doors. Someone who is actually extrovert behind closed doors, they need their alone time in a certain aspect, but their alone time looks different. Like what I explained before for me, my alone time isn't necessarily the alone time that a lot of people probably would consider alone time, because I'm still connected with my phone, or my alone time is with my kids or with you. I enjoy alone time Sunday afternoons, chilling with you, because we don't have errands to do. Mm-hmm. We don't have to go out and meet people. Right. We don't go over to your parents' house or your siblings' house or my parents' house. I try to make that afternoon where it's just us and the kids, and I consider that alone time. So I'm not the typical introvert that would probably need actual alone time just with themselves. I think I'm good with not, like alone time for me is like
strangers outside
yeah,
of the
like
house.
not going outside the house. But if I'm actually alone inside the house for too long, I go crazy.
Oh yeah, I know.
I'm like, I need to
call
get
me.
out. Yeah, I have to call you, or I have to call somebody. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I don't like being alone.
Or a
So
45-minute drive home from work, or what 30 minutes, whatever. You're like, I'm alone in the car. I need to talk to you. I'm like,
this is
it's
true.
Like 30
I'm
minute drive
guilty.
home. You're okay.
No, and now these days it's like 23-minute drive
Yeah.
because after COVID, it's like not that many people out on the road. But yeah. So I think the difference is like somebody who is extrovert and they're behind closed doors. If they're still an extrovert, then they are definitely an extrovert.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they don't need actual people to be extrovert. They make those people like by connections on the like via social media or even like your own family members. You know.
Oh, speaking of that, I think I'd be extrovert, like an online.
You might
know
be
what I
an
mean?
extrovert online.
Yeah, because I don't have to show my face or anything.
Oh, so like typing online, not
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if you were like streaming or
Yeah.
something. Oh yeah, you started streaming recently that we can shout you out.
No, it's okay.
Come on.
No, it feels weird. See, I'm being my introvert self again.
Oh my gosh.
Don't watch me.
Yeah, we'll come watch him.
No, don't come watch me.
Oh my goodness, you crazy. So, what would you consider as unique strengths? So, like, what kind of unique strengths do introverts bring to the table in various aspects of life, such as work, relationships, and creative pursuits? All right. So, what can introverts, do you think, bring to the table?
For introverts, their strengths, because we don't have to talk to people, or not have to, but we don't want to talk to people. We like to stay in our own little bubble by ourselves. I think our strength would be, we're really focused people. We can get our job done, start to finish. It's just like a tunnel vision for us, whatever we're working on. I think the challenges
Yeah, conversely, that was my next question.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Our challenges is actually talking to people.
Yeah, communication.
Communication skills is lacking because when I talk, I'm trying to think ahead of what I have to say, and it doesn't come natural that well.
Wow,
it feels weird.
That's crazy because sometimes in my brain it's like I have too many things that I want to say at once. And that's where I like kind of stutter step a little bit. I'm like, it happens to me all the time, especially as you know, like when I'm recording, you're my editor. So sometimes I'm like trying to say too many things at once and I can't get it out, But for me, I think being an extrovert, we have our biggest strength is communication. We are able to bring people together through communicating. And I can just give a quick example in my own my own professional life at work. The team that I work on has been notorious for like wanting communication, but the other teams that we work with just do not give it to us. And it's kind of like, it boils down to like two different teams. And we would just constantly be the last people to know about everything. And when I started in this new position, because I've been working there for a while, but I got promoted a couple years ago. And when I started in this new position, I realized this like on day one. I was like, why does nobody communicate? And it's because I looked at everyone on both teams. They're all introverts. They're all exactly introverts. Yeah, we work for the same company, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody's introverts. And I'm like, we need someone to be that bridge. We need someone to build that relationship between our team and the other team so that we can actually communicate and know what's going on before the deadline, before it's due. So I've somehow become that bridge. And I think it's because I am the extrovert. I think it's my strength. My strength is communication. I want to make sure that everyone's always on the same page. We don't have to second guess. So professionally, I think our extroverts' biggest strength is being able to communicate anything and everything like with ease, pretty much. We don't have to really think about it too much. We're just like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. All right, bet, let me communicate. On the flip side, I think
you don't get work done.
That could be it too. We talk too much, but also we face the challenge of possibly overstepping boundaries by communicating too much. I know, just speaking on my personal experience, I've had to roll it in a little bit because I want to help. That's like truly what I want to do. But at the same time, it's not my place. It's not my job. And I'm trying to make sure these two introverts above me can communicate, but it's not my job to be that bridge. And I've actually not necessarily gotten in trouble for it, but I've actually been told before, like, hey, I know what you're trying to do is for the better good, but like, it's not your place. So I think sometimes the same thing, communicating too well could be a good thing, but also a bad thing because we can overstep our boundaries and people don't take that lightly. They're like, hey, why are you trying to do my job? Or why are you messing, like, why is your nose where it's not supposed to be?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
it could be, on both ends of the spectrum. But I want to wrap this up finally. Just again, reiterate, Davis is an introvert, which is a person who basically just likes to spend time alone. A little bit of a loner, but it's not like he likes to technically be alone. He just doesn't like to be out socially with people.
Yeah.
I'm an extrovert person who literally loves being around people, can have a conversation with anybody, and who gains energy from other people. So most people aren't technically 100% introvert or 100% extrovert. And then we said there's things like ambiverts and stuff like that. It's a spectrum. So people can fall on a spectrum where they lean more towards introversion or they lean more towards extroversion. But I want to ask you just quickly, how can that self-awareness of knowing whether you lean more towards being an introvert or extrovert help you better understand yourself and how you interact with others?
So being an introvert, I actually find it harder to communicate with other introverted people.
No, that makes sense. I think, well, for me as an extrovert, I think being aware that I'm an extrovert allows me to kind of have a little bit of a confidence boost. When I go to communicate with people, I am able to better understand myself and how I interact with others, like both on a professional level and a personal level. So I'm not necessarily scared ever really to interact with people unless I have to make a doctor's appointment and then I'm like, no, I need my mom. But but I do like to be able to know that, oh, I can handle pretty much anything. But I think being an introvert, it might be hard.
It's so
difficult.
hard to talk. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's this, one guy at work. It's really difficult to talk to him because he's so. I think he does fall under introvert.
Oh, yeah.
He only talks to me when he needs something, and well, likewise for me with anyone else. But in a professional environment, I have to be social a bit more. So it's easier for me to be social at work. In my personal time, it's not so easy. Knowing that I am introvert, I understand where I fall. I don't like being introvert because it's hard to communicate, and just interacting with other introvert, it doesn't work that well. I need to have that ambivert at the minimum. Someone that's ambivert, but preferably someone that is extrovert to help carry a conversation or guide where this conversation can go. It makes life so much easier for me.
Yeah, I know we have to wrap up here soon, but I think the best business idea, if you are hiring employees, for every introvert you hire, you have to have an extrovert there. Because I've noticed in my professional life that I work best around introverts. It's even my personal life, like with you. But if I'm with a fellow extrovert, we have a really good time, but we're crazy. We won't stop talking and we won't get anything done. But we have a good time, but nothing gets done. But even in my group, like I said, I'm the only extrovert, and working with a bunch of introverts, I feel like, well, now we just got a new hire recently who's also an extrovert. So there's two of us. And I think it's like a really good balance. 2 extroverts to every 4 introverts, especially if those extroverts are super extroverted. Yeah, but I think it's, we might be getting onto something. If you're ever planning to open your own business or something, make sure you have like a little box that you check, like, are you introvert or extrovert? And then for every introvert you hire one extrovert, or something. But yeah, no, this has been good. I hope you guys have a better understanding of the differences between an introvert and an extrovert. And then we talked about the struggles, not only the struggles, but the pros and cons behind being both an introvert and extrovert. So hopefully you guys have a better understanding of that here today. I want to thank Davis for being on here with me, even though...
Thank you for forcing me to
it was was just
'Cause
about
I'm
to say that.
introvert.
It was forced. It was forced. I was like, I need somebody, and you're an introvert, and you're right here, please. And he was like, and I was like, you're doing it. Nonetheless, thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome.
We love you. And for everyone listening, thank you for making it this far. If you have anything you would like for me to talk about, please comment in the comments below.
Actually, let me ask the question here.
Okay.
Y'all let us know if you are introvert, ambivert, or extrovert. I want to
Ooh.
know too. Are your followers more of ambivert, introvert? You know, like how many of you are introverts or extroverts? Like,
Ooh, that could be
what's the
another
ratio? You know what
topic in
I'm
the
talking about?
future. Like in when you speak English, do you think you're introvert or extrovert? Is there a difference? That's a good one too. I just thought about that because when I speak
That could be
Korean,
good.
I'm a little bit more. Actually, no, I'm an extrovert
Actually,
in
I'm
Korean
introvert
too.
all around because if there's a language barrier, I'm not talking. I won't even leave the house.
I think though that's definitely something we could talk about in the future. But
Yeah.
just yes, like David said, comment below whether you think you're introvert or extrovert, and then also if there's anything you would like to hear on this podcast, comment below. And I hope to see you all in the next episode.
We're surrounded by